What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Lioneye's Watch podcast. Last week we had Jonathan on for talking about his role on the team and a few technical questions. Tonight we'll be discussing the new Sextant mods, microtransactions, their cost and the use of them, and of course build of the week. HGMPT, how are you guys doing?
What's up, everybody?
Well,
Glad to
hello
be back.
there.
Wow, that was smooth, guys. That was
Fucking
Yeah.
genius. The best. You know, self-applause right there.
We're going to start with the Sextant discussion. We're going to head right into it. In the development manifesto, GGG has said, and I quote, "Cartographer Sextant mods have not been rewarding enough for players. We want them to be seen as worth rolling, so we will rework the Sextant mods a little." And then in a recent patch, 2.4.4, right? Yeah, I think so. They added multiple new Sextant mods in order to solve this issue, together with a bunch of other quality of life changes, such as being able to upgrade your Sextants to a new tier by trading in 3 of the similar ones and things like that. So first of all, let me just ask you guys, did you even use Sextants before this? Go ahead.
Are you asking me or are you
Yeah,
asking
both
PT?
of you. Had you go ahead.
Well, I only used 2, and when I used the Sextant, my stream was just screaming at me. They're like, "No, don't use it. They're going to change it soon."
Yeah.
You know, they're like, "Just save them, save them." So
Yeah.
outside of that, not really. When I did do it, it didn't seem like that impactful. It was just kind of bland, and the one I got was adds a random property, and it ended up adding stuff that I didn't like chilled ground, and I just wanted to play at a certain rate, and I had the certain expectation, and the Sextant ruined the fun.
When I first tried the Sextants, they were they didn't really do much, as everyone kind of knows, and that's why they were reworked. I think I used like 4 or 6. Then I just stockpiled them for when they did the change. After the change, I had a lower level character, yet I'm not in the red tiers, and I don't feel it's worth using Sextants in white tiers and the yellow tiers. It feels that I should be upgrading those Sextants into the red Sextants, 9-1 for the white, 3-1 for yellow. I threw a couple on just to try it. I got the poison haste modification for every stack of poison, and then I rolled even a poison modification on the map to be like, okay, the mobs poison mobs, poison speed, and I was like, okay, excellent.
I get the theme.
Didn't notice it.
Yeah.
Well, you said you didn't use the Sextants at low level, but I mean, would you reconsider that if you didn't have an already established map pool, like going into a fresh challenge league? Are you still planning on saving them?
I still plan on saving them.
Okay.
It's also a bit awkward because of how many Sextants I have stored, and I really feel that I'm going to have to try out Sextants from the beginning when I don't have this pool of Sextants prepared, because the drop rate of them is still fairly low.
I was actually curious, how many Sextants did you guys have stored up approximately before this?
I want to say it was like 40, 20, 12, something like that.
Yeah.
By the time
I've gotten about like 55 white. Keep in mind I've used basically none of them. Then about 36 yellow, and then 16 red.
You guys have a lot. I probably have half of what you guys have. Maybe, I don't know. I've been doing a lot of Uberlab farming and boss farming, so maybe that's why.
Yeah.
Uberlab can drop it, but definitely not. Probably not to the same extent.
That was an interesting change mentioned in the patch. It said that Uberlab was going to remain untouched with the map box, but Siri was going to get changed so that she follows your atlas.
Yeah.
And too many people were just solely farming Siri, normal, and Uber and getting in a really, really sick map pool, essentially not having to progress the atlas. But how do you guys feel about that?
To me, it doesn't change it too much, and I don't really have the experience with it. It makes sense honestly, it's a bit weird how easy it is to bypass the Atlas system. Like the Uber lab is quite efficient, and like the Uber Ethereum stuff, you get a lot of maps, a lot.
Yeah,
I feel it.
I mean,
it's fitting. It solved the problem, basically.
Yeah, it makes the Atlas more special.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
something to do on the side, not just like, oh, this rolls over into some other progression, you know, laterally, and that kind of takes the flavor out of the Atlas.
What kind of
definitely want to feel that progression.
What kind of sextant mods have you found to be the most interesting yet of the ones you've seen?
Well, I almost ripped one. It was the clusters of mysterious barrels, 30 additional clusters.
Yeah, I did that.
And I
one
was
today.
like, yeah, I was like, what is this? I was like, and then I just started whirling around. I was like, okay, they explode. And since I'm a trapper, I can't throw a trap and have it explode. So I started whirling through them, and I nearly ripped. just whirling through like a cluster. I was like, I got to like 400 HP, maybe a little less, and I was like, holy shit, don't do that.
Was it the what's it called? The one that explodes elemental damage?
Yeah, it's like oh, are you talking about a different one?
Yeah, there's supposedly 5 different ones of these mysterious barrels, so they can work as volatiles. They can be drop bears, as far as I know. They can be these worms that spawn. I can't remember the 4th, but the 5th is that they have the wealthy mod. So that's the one you want to roll. But apparently that's the rarest one to roll as well.
Just like completely random.
Yeah, but
I'm
glad
it goes
for
ripping.
all.
I haven't run into it yet.
Yeah,
Some people who are, of course, a little sad when they work like volatiles and you're playing as a melee character, jumping into 10 barrels with volatile.
Well, I'm sure there's a hardcore character that he was like, hey, let's try out these new sextants. Okay, all right, hey. Barrels, cool. Barrels haven't been a thing before. Earthquake, instant dead.
Yeah.
Huh.
You know, been playing this game for so long, and I still make stupid errors like that. Whenever there's new information or new mechanics, you have to proceed with caution, because they're probably intended to kill you if you don't like pay attention.
But have you guys seen the slipstreams yet?
Yeah.
Those are kind of fun.
Cool.
Yeah. I like that. I would like to see more of that. It kind of feels like Tempests, right? I think it uses the same mechanic, right? But I would like to see more of that. There's also, similar to it, there is the Creeping Agony. Have you guys seen that? Basically deals...
No, I have not seen that one.
It's like a moving... It's similar to...
That's an old one, wasn't it? The Degen Circle.
Yeah,
that happens
is that an old one?
Malachi fight. Yeah, it was previously. You know, nobody did Sextant, so they didn't notice it, but that's a fun one.
One of the things I found that was very useful, I'm not sure if this is a new or an old one either, but it says areas contain Sana. Do you know if that is an older...
There was one that spawns a master.
Yeah, they've removed that now.
I guess it's Sana specific now.
But the thing with Sana, that's actually pretty powerful. Imagine getting that early on in the league and leveling up Sana or having Sana consecutively for 3 maps. It's quite a lot of Sana experience in the beginning.
Yeah, but early league, how many sextants are you going to have? And then of those sextants, what's going to happen first? You getting the sextant to drop, then spawning the Xana on it, or just finding the Xana?
I mean, you could get a few sextant drops, and if you're lucky, well, if you want to spend them on white maps, it's not unrealistic.
Well, once again, we've gone through 2 months about on this league, and I've gotten, if I'm rounding up, 60 white sextants.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not a high drop rate, but
maybe if they're cheap, right? I could see something interesting.
Yeah, I mean, what's nice about the white ones is that you can use them, you know, the ones that are adjacent to your yellow ones, and even your yellow ones could be, shaped, and you can get a red one from a white one, which is really, really cool. I've been doing that on the left side a lot, saving a lot of potential sextants and getting a lot of good properties. But on the slipstream one, we forgot to mention that it's like a fog where if you stand in it, you get attack and cast speed bonuses, and it says it does stack, but I never was able to find an area where they were actually overlapping, and I was like, what? That would have been really cool if I could actually find a spot where I could, utilize that.
Yeah,
I was kind of
movement speed as well, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's just like, I think it's just like a global haste.
Yeah, it probably is, yeah. I also noticed there is players cannot take reflected damage. I'm not sure if that's new or not, but
that was new. It was teased earlier, yeah.
Okay, so that's of course kind of nice if you've been rolling some otherwise really rippy mods and you can't do reflect damage. All of a sudden, that problem is solved.
Except it's a bit awkward because you have to throw this sextant on, hope it comes up, and then run these reflect maps that you've stored, whereas you might as well just sell those reflect maps and buy the others.
I wonder how people will be using them, though, if they will just, once they have a decent amount of yellow or red, if they're just going to throw it onto the map and then, when they find the map, just run it with the sextant mods you have, or if they're going to wait for when they have the map specifically and then try to roll it.
I think they would just, I would just put a reflect map to the side. If it has good rolls that I just can't run because it said fizz reflect, I would just wait. Eventually I'll get to the point where I can put a sex in there and it might accidentally get it, and then I'll just I covered it. That being said, I don't really trust that command or that program or that line to actually work, right? I'm totally anticipating it not working, and then I'd be like, well, that's great. I just died,
exactly.
There's no way.
Whoops.
Yeah, in hardcore, that's the end of your character. Oh, that's a technical thing. Okay, I guess that's a PSA.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's not working.
PSA not working as intended.
That's why. Well, they got rid of this. Have they fixed that CI bug where players will randomly get their health rounded down and die?
What? How does that work?
You don't know that one?
No.
There is occasions of players specking into CI in their hideout and dying.
Okay.
You see about one Reddit post about it.
Maybe that's their way of trying to balance life and CI.
Chris will just occasionally smite one.
That's the risk, bros. With great powers comes great risk. Let's go with that.
It's just a hilarious thing because it's not the one where they press the the coruscating flask or whatever, the mana flask, so they instantly die. It's just you press CI, you click respec, character's dead.
Man, that's great.
Okay, so it was fixed, which is nice.
Too bad. Well, I was curious about a few things. Maybe you guys can enlighten me on this. They removed the items dropped by unique boss are corrupted. That's one of the Sextant mods. Do you guys know why they did that? Was that abusable in any way, or?
I don't.
I got that property once.
It might have just been not interesting enough.
Yeah, that would be my guess because it didn't seem broken or anything like that.
Okay.
Maybe you could put it on triple. Not that I know of. There's some triple boss stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe there's shenanigans where, since there's a lot of bosses, actually I don't know if they all count as bosses. When you're doing Hall of the Grandmasters, which ones count as bosses?
That's a good question.
I have no idea.
Are they all bosses?
I would assume it's the final wing, because you could get a ton of uniques and a ton of corrupted stuff if that counted, but I'm not sure the interaction.
Yeah, that would make sense.
To the two guys that can farm it, check first.
One of the ones I found really interesting was the strong boxes in the area are corrupted, contains extra strong box, and boxes have at least rare rarity. That's pretty cool. It's kind of like the Tempest corruption, with a potential of getting a lot of 6 property jewelry and 6 links. So I really like that.
I kind of like the this. It's kind of bland, but the 20 map quality is actually pretty sweet as well. I guess that means you can then have 40 map quality if you actually decide to chisel it. It's a pretty significant bonus.
I think they're just playing with both spectrums, right? They're giving you something really hard to deal with, and then sometimes you'll catch a breather, and it's just it's all bonus, but it's probably infrequent.
Yeah, exactly.
There's also the 60% reduced effect of curses on players. In addition, it reduces your curse effectiveness by a fraction. But that's an interesting thing because, you know, when you run a temp change, usually you're just like, no, I don't want to do that. But if you have that sextant within range, you're like, all right, well, I probably will run it now.
Yeah.
You know, it's not that bad. Or whether you're running Vuln and you're like reconsidering it.
Yeah.
So that's a good decision, but you have to be really, really methodical and meticulous with how you manage your stuff and which maps are exactly affected, how many more uses you have left. And I don't know if that's worth it. Like if that's worth the time and effort. I guess if you're playing solo stealth on it might be, or if you're very limited on currency.
One of the things to keep in mind is you don't get above the 20% quality with the sextant. You can't go above 20.
Even with the sextant. Okay.
So
well, it basically saves you some chisels then, I guess.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. They also removed strongbox contents on mirrored. Could that have anything to do with the prophecy by any chance? The prophecy that spawns 30 or 36 or something like that boxes?
Well, there was always weird interactions with that, so it could have been an interaction problem. I'm not 100% sure because I just didn't bother to do too many sextants previously. I was just like, no, nothing's good is coming out of this, only negative things. Now at least we have a little bit of a mix.
Yeah, I like them now. I think they're pretty fun, pretty cool. I think though that maybe they need to have a slightly higher drop chance.
Yeah,
I mean we have been playing a lot.
Yeah,
and
I
we
agree.
only have that amount of sextants.
I mean, we've been
that much
saving
sex.
for how long, right? So we have like a nice chunk, but when we actually go into the next league, you know, if they continue to drop at this rate, they're not going to be that impactful.
Yeah.
Overall, I want to reserve until next league before I kind of decide whether or not I like the sextant changes or where they need to be. Because right now we do have an influx of tons of save stuff. So people are like, "Wow, check out these massive sextanted maps," and it's like, yeah, but that's 2 months of saving that you then just shoved in one day.
I think maybe the drop rate, maybe it's even good enough for like reds or something like that. But I feel like if they were to increase at least the white ones, then you would probably also be a little more inclined to use them on white maps.
That would have made sense until they added the recipe. Yeah, because white can only shape the yellow, but once they put in the recipe, now they have to.
I can see why when we spoke with Chris in the podcast, why he had so many reservations about the sextants, and people were going crazy, like just shaping not shaping, but putting sextants on every single map and then just running it. I remember it was Farblar Waggle. He like did his whole map and he was like, "Let's go," and then his title of his stream was, "This is the most fun I've ever had mapping ever." It was just like paragraphs of shit on the right side of his screen. But yeah, if you saw that, you're just like, what a fucking mess, like what did he do?
Have you guys
it's awesome.
Thought about any of the prophecy and sextant interactions? And like I mentioned one just before, but I mean there is some sextants that provide like the quality, quantity, then there's the mysterious barrels and all that stuff. Together with some of the prophecies, wouldn't you be able to get like quite a lot of items?
Well, if you can stack, let's say there's this Tempests, and the Tempest prophecies give you a decent amount of quantity. Or sorry, pack size.
Yeah.
No.
Well, there's pack size as well for rare or for both rare and magic monsters. I don't know if that one is the one that gives that.
So if you can manage to stack the right prophecies, but prophecies have a little bit of RNG behind them, there's going to be insane combinations, and that's probably the intention of both prophecies and both sextants. So that is good. They do kind of interestingly have a similar design space in that sense, whereas prophecies don't quite do what I feel they need to do in the mapping. They're a little bit underwhelming late game.
I still feel that prophecies are there's a little too much of the prophecies that doesn't always influence maps. So before map content, and I mean,
going back to kill the stupid shaman to get your uniques.
Exactly. And you can of course just seal them and all that stuff, but it feels bad.
Well, the sealing cost is much more restrictive now than it used to be.
Yeah. It's still 8, isn't it? No, it depends on the prophecy, of course.
So some of them have been changed. It's just silver drops less.
Yeah. Okay. But you definitely felt the increase to silver coins, the drop rate of that. They were so scarce in the beginning of the week. I think I had 6 after reaching maps or something like that.
Most of them that I had were from chests that had the roll.
Yeah. Yeah, map. Yeah, exactly. You actually got most of them.
Purified in chat is mentioning the council one spawns too frequently for me.
The council.
Yeah, I get a lot of those too.
Yeah.
Are the council? The bows still has value, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, it still sells for.
Oh yeah, it's still like the shaper killer. Yeah. Pew pew laser beam.
Yeah, I was just curious because that's one of the ones where it might need to have a high drop rate, but they spawn so frequently and there's so many parts of the tiers that I'm just like, oh, this is no.
The key fragments still cost quite a lot though. I think
I wonder if it's people can't be asked to do them.
Yeah, I guess. I guess. Well,
no, it's good. It's good. It has value. I mean, it gives people a different corner of the market to work.
So then, how about we go from there into the build of the week?
Yes. And Hedgie, will you start off with this one?
So this week's build of the week is Apathae's Arctic Shotgun. I'll link it in chat. You can follow along. His character name
also, sorry to interrupt, just real quick. You can also, anytime, guys, type ! build of the week in one word in the channel, and the link will come up for future reference.
Nice. So what's interesting about this is, yes, he is CI, and you can understand quickly why he went CI, and it's because he's using 2 uniques that are key to this build. One that drops off of the Shaper, it's called Snake Pits, and it gives you the extra projectile without having the downside of a damage
That's Guardian, not Shaper, remember?
Oh yeah, Death Guardian, and so it gives you the extra projectile, no mana multiplier, no damage downside. It gives you cast speed and cold damage. So he uses 2 of those, so he achieves 2 extra projectiles, and then he uses Hrimburn, which is a faded unique from Hrimsorrow, and that allows you to ignite with cold damage. And he chooses a good skill for that because he essentially turns his Arctic Breath into a fireball. A level 20 Arctic Breath is roughly the same damage as a level 19 fireball. And he's achieving the chilled ground, which is great for defense. He's getting the really high ignites, and then he's using a lot of AoE overlap. Now, Arctic Breath is a really, really expensive skill. On a 6-link, it's like near 200 per cast. But he gets around this by using Warlords, and he's going dual curse, so he's got a lot of projectiles. I was surprised to see that he's only on his flask, even though he's a crit Inquisitor, he doesn't use the Surgeon's property. He goes for duration on his Sapphire Flask. And then on his Mana Flask, he just goes for ample more charges. That was quite interesting. He opted to use PT's favorite flask. It's called the Dying Sun. Yeah. He's got the Atziri Promise for more leech and non-reflectable damage, which is good. And then he's got Rumies for avoidance and fizz mitigation. And he covers all the bases. His Sapphires reduces the chances, or it makes him immune to chill and freeze. And then he's got Chayula for the stun. Those are the 2 heavy hitter downsides of CI. And he deals with them that way.
It's really cool to see the Snake Pit rings being used.
Yeah, that, and I also forgot to mention, in his guide, it's very, very thorough. He makes it accessible, at the very low gear levels. He suggests weapons like Singularity, which calls like an Alteration Shard or an Alk. and then he moves up to Divinarius, and then once you outgrow Divinarius, you can get Doriani's Catalyst. And then he also talks about going super wealthy and getting low life Shavs, and then working in Skyforce. So he has a wide spectrum of power that he offers in his guide, which I found really, really useful.
You don't want to play this build if you have a bad PC, though. With Arctic Breath. That's one of the limitations.
Shield Ground, always just doing everything we want.
Yeah.
If you're not familiar with your options for the Arctic Breath setup, just has the kind of classic Arctic Breath. It has faster casting instead of the pen. It's chosen to be the Inquisitor. The Spell Echo support, increased critical strike, greater multiple projectiles, hypothermia. If you were just on the 5 link, you would use, or you would just drop the increased critical strike support, and that would be your final one. The hypothermia is, he's not going for freeze, so he doesn't lose a huge amount with any of the less damage multiplier to Spell Echo. He's not losing much in terms of the first hit on the hypothermia, and he manages to do solid damage, though he has quite fantastic gear at the same point in time. As for leveling, though, it's Blade Vortex. He doesn't recommend leveling as Arctic Breath. It's not the most powerful. I'm sure that's a shocker to everybody listening. Just use Blade Vortex.
You can do it if you want to. It's not terrible, but it's not fast.
Yeah. And often you can do it. I've leveled as zombies from the coast. It's awful. But...
It's awful, yeah. Oh my god.
We did it.
I tried that myself.
Yeah. Oh, they're terrible, aren't they?
Yeah.
And it's not a build where you're going to need the Snake Pit gloves or, the Dying Sun. It's just you get that much more area of effect overlap, as Hedgie was saying.
Yeah, exactly. He also uses Conk Effect plus Vol Glacial Hammer. And the intention with that is to deal with single target, so that when you use your Arctic Breath, it then explodes off the walls of the Vol Glacial Hammer. That said, I think I read on Reddit a few days ago that they fixed this.
Yeah, it's in his guide, I believe.
Yeah.
Actually.
I think that may not work anymore, but that was his way of, very, very effectively, together with Vol Lightning Trap, deal a ton of damage to single targets and bosses. So we're not entirely sure if that still works, but the damage should be fine anyway. It shouldn't be an issue. But, yeah.
He did make the comment, this is still pretty good Arctic Breath build, even after that patch.
Okay.
But there's a pretty funny video of him doing a fuck ton of damage.
Yeah, killing Rigvald in a few casts. It's pretty awesome. I mean, it's a shame that...
It's a shame, yeah.
Yeah, stuff like this happens. And it was mainly with the motivation of fixing the brokenness of Frostwall with Lightning Arrow.
Yeah.
It's like a completely different build that abuses the Frostwall mechanic, and then things like EA, Kinetic Blast, and this, AoE overlapping with Arctic Breath gets, shut down in big ways.
Yeah.
These were awesome tools for them, and I don't feel like they were OP.
No.
And now they don't have that because of Lightning Arrow. Thanks, Lightning Arrow.
I don't know. He one-shots a, tier 15 or tier 15 boss? In a fraction of a second, and I would consider that in the OP scale when he's just like, oh, instantly boss dead. Cute.
Yeah. Doesn't sound OP to me. I want to do that
He did
myself.
set it up. I mean, he had to get, fill up the souls, and then he had to wait and check to see if Rigvald wasn't going to cast the ghost in his direction.
And you can't do it against, area restricted bosses and all that stuff. But yeah.
And he did mention sorry.
As for the skill tree, the skill tree is pretty straightforward. It's what you expect from a CI caster typically. He picks up Chaos Inoculation, of course, Ghost Reaver so he can leech. He has Vault Pact for insta-leech to prevent himself from dying. He scales his damage mostly via crit, multi, or crit chance and crit multi, and area nodes. He also picks up Whispers of Doom so he can dual curse. And he has the flask nodes together with Dying Sun, greatly, buffing that particular flask, which is already insanely strong. One thing I've never seen picked up before is Fingers of Frost, and a lot of you guys, when you're hearing this, you're probably wondering what the fuck is Fingers of Frost? Where's that in the skill tree? It's just above Ghost Reaver. I've never even noticed that cluster before, to be honest.
It is one of the ones where I find odd, because he doesn't seem like he's trying to freeze. He does even have Spell Echo, which has a less multiplier to the damage, so the top end freeze isn't as high.
Yeah.
And that's the one, if I could chat with the individual directly, I'd be like, what, am I missing something? Because we couldn't be missing something.
Isn't the higher freeze chains, and this is what I'm curious about with the gloves, isn't the higher freeze chains meaning higher ignite chains? Isn't that the intention? Or is it just the damage by itself that can ignite?
Well, it's just a damage, because it says your cold damage can ignite. That doesn't mean your freeze chance is equated to ignite.
I was wondering if that was the interaction there, but
no.
Despite that, it's interesting to see. As for the Ascendancy, he picks up the Inquisitor with the goal of getting more crit chains, higher elemental damage, and of course the very, very powerful of whenever you crit, your damage ignores monster resistances, so they have 0 resistances, and that's why he doesn't need that cold penetration support node as well. Then he also uses Instruments of Virtue, which is insanely powerful when you have, or it's powerful when you have a movement attack skill, because every time you use that, you basically gain 30% more cast speed, and on top of that, every time you cast a spell, you also gain 30% more spell damage. So you get a lot of value in those. And then finally he has, I think it's Augury of Penitence, who just adds a bit of damage. So yeah, that's the build of the week. It's very interesting, it's very well written. Check it out. If you want to try out Arctic Breath, then this is definitely one of the ones you can go for. Before we continue, we have a straw poll we would like you guys to participate in, and this is relevant to the next topic that we're going to discuss. The straw poll is, let me pull it up here on stream. Project, can you explain it in the meanwhile?
So the straw poll is, how do you feel about the path of Exile MTX prices? Your options are going to be whether they fit the budget, slightly too expensive for you, slightly too cheap, far too expensive, or you wouldn't really purchase them regardless. So a bit flexible. And so we're going to do a bit of a discussion about microtransactions and the microtransaction system. As Jonathan pointed out in the previous one, they're potentially adjusting the system.
Yeah.
So it seemed like a reasonable time to see what's working with it to us, what isn't working for other people.
Go ahead and vote, guys. The link is in the description of the Twitch chat, and so we can see your votes coming in. And so as we get into the, I think maybe the straw poll is bugged.
Yeah, because it's not moving.
It's not really
I was
updating.
wondering that.
Yeah, let
There's
me
only
just
one vote. It's rigged.
It's far too expensive.
rigged.
That's the only one that counts apparently. Let me just try and see if it's bugged here.
You might want to refresh that one.
Yeah, let me just try. I'm doing it right now. Yes, this looks better. There we go. Now it's moving. I think it may have been bugged the last time as well. But all right. So let's talk. We're going to talk microtransactions now, the cost, what we feel about that, and some confusions we have with it. And before we start the discussion, I just want to give you guys an idea of like the typical prices of microtransactions in the game. I'm of course not going to go over everything. This is just the generic typical things. So for instance, portals. You can buy portals, and they range from anywhere between $7.50 to $15. Then you have pets that range from anywhere between $1.50 to $110. That's one of the most expensive things. But to be fair, that is only one of the. It's the Lightning Scorpion that costs $110 most. But there's a lot of other expensive ones like $55 things. Then you have Skill Effect MTX that's typically between $1.5 and $12. Then you have the Gloom Wings by themselves, that's $39. And then you have the typical armor sets for $42. And then finally, and the things that the people spend a lot of money on is the stash tabs. And you have the currency stash tab for $7.50. You have the non-premium bundle stash tabs for $15, and then the premium bundle for $20. And there's much more, but these are like the typical ones that people spend a lot of money on. So first of all, let me ask you here, guys: are you avid users of, or consumers, let's put it like that, of the various MTX that GGG offers, Hedgie?
Yeah, I mean, I bought a lot of supporter packs and I've spent a lot of points on MTX, but I don't know, like the armor sets are really, really high. And at this point, I'm just buying the ones that I'm absolutely in love with, right? I do not get it. Even if I like it a little bit, I just don't get it. I can't justify, you know, spending that much just for one armor set on one character. With that being said, you know, my favorite one is definitely the dragon armor set with the spear. That one I did buy on sale, and I always buy it on sale. If I buy it at full price, I'll just feel really, really, really guilty.
Yeah, I feel the same as you. It really, really has to be insanely attractive to for you to spend $42 on, right? $42, you can buy a AAA game for that price in some cases, right? I think I saw one post an image of Diablo selling for $39 or something like that next to the 42 armor set, and obviously one of those purchases is completely a complete waste of time and not very attractive, and that's of course Diablo, but still.
It's interesting in that sense because the armor sets are 420 points, but at the same point, the issue that I always run into is even some of the things that I have that I would like to use are some of the pets. The MTX system and the MTX tab, I just got tired of using it, so I just stopped for the most part using the MTXs on my characters, even if I had them.
Exactly. Actually, before we continue with the more like the actual cost of it, I want to talk to you guys a bit about the mentality behind buying MTX. So first of all, my first question is here: why do you think people buy MTX? What is that? What is it that they feel they need? Why do they buy that for their character? Hedgie.
Well, I do it because I like the game a lot and I want to support the game. I'm not thinking, oh, I'm getting incredible value by buying this, you know, these pixels or whatever. You know, it's a game that I love. I've been playing it consistently for 4 years. So, you know, the money I would spend on my entertainment, you know, my annual entertainment, I just consider that and I dump it into the company. And I happen to get these supporter packs. But yeah, I don't really feel that, oh yes, this is worth the pixels, right?
What
I'd
about
rather
you,
have a
PC?
T-bone steak or something.
Oh, yeah.
For me, I get the functional things. There's a couple of the supporter visuals that I have, but that's because the supporter packs is more efficient to buy the points. And then I'm just tabs, guild slots, or guild stash tabs over and over and over again ad nauseum. I just get the functionality.
Yeah, I primarily stick to the functionality as well. That said, there is a few situations, I think a lot of people feel this way. When the Arctic armor set came out, for instance, it just went so well with some of the frost skills, and you feel like you're finalizing your character by putting on that set, while at the same time it has absolutely no effect on your gameplay, right? But it is that final thing that completes your character. I personally don't care too much about it myself, but there is a few ones where you need to get it. I'm also a little curious. How much would you guys want to spend on an armor pack, for instance? What would be fair for you guys here?
I mean, what would be reasonable for me would be around $20.
$20? That's
for
high.
some of my favorite ones. I mean, yeah, it is kind of high, but I understand that, you know, there's a lot of overhead and a lot of development that they have to put in to make it. So, I mean, I'm guessing that's part of the reason why it costs so much. It's because they have to fit it on every single model, make sure the clipping is not awkward. I mean...
But just because it's more expensive doesn't actually mean you make more money from the product.
Not necessarily.
It's not a... Yeah, it's... one thing to keep in mind when you talk about visual microtransactions in video games is it's not a consumed commodity. So once it's developed, it's developed.
Mm-hmm. Although you can only use it for that character.
Yeah.
I mean,
so,
I'm curious if you guys. I don't think anyone really argues too much that the prices are fairly high in the game, right? Do you guys think that it's intentional? Because look at it this way here. There's some people who have a lot of money and they will buy regardless. It doesn't matter for them if the microtransaction costs $10 or it costs $60. Let's call them the Path of Exile monetary elite. These guys, when they buy something, they want or they find satisfaction in being exclusive.
Right.
Exclusive to that group of people who have been able to afford that and runs around with that. So by having some MTX very expensive, you cater to that audience. Whereas maybe they're feeling that even if they were to reduce the price, still that doesn't mean that students or people who maybe don't have as much money, they would probably still not buy MTX because they still don't have a lot of money. So the thing here is that the rich people here, the elite, if you want to call them that, they would buy you can have these high prices and get away with it. Those are the ones who support the company. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, like the 5% pays for the game for the 95% of, people in chat are calling them whales. But
whales, the term that was given to them.
Whales?
Whale. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, think about it this way. People buy these hundreds of dollars supporter packs, right? They get thousands and thousands of points, right? And then, the next season comes around, and if you have everything, or if you have everything and you have like 10,000 points, are you still going to want to buy the next highest tier supporter pack? I mean, chances are they might. They might, just because, they'll pay it even though they don't need the points. But people will pay, an outrageous price, and it kind of hurts the other people that really want to look snazzy on their one character, or they really want this but can't afford it. With that being said, they've gone, out of their way to introduce a lot of these challenges as an opportunity to get some MTX, get some really cool portal effects, weapon effects, and armor. And the supporter packs do offer that too. So that's kind of like a band-aid, but there are still these, really exclusive MTX that so many people want but just can't afford. And it's kind of unfair because it's a game that markets itself all over the place, and your cost of living is, different than, say New Zealand, which is what they need. They need to be able to pay for the cost of living of their team and their development of their game in their country.
Yeah, of course. Makes
that being said, there are other markets that they're tapping into, so they're going to be getting a lot of income over there. So, we don't know.
Well, realistically, you have a system where, talking about the whales, the people who have an abundance of money to put into luxury income, luxury expenditures, you have already a system where there's an infinite sink through divination cards, through uniques, there's always something that they could, in theory, spend on. And I don't think anybody has a problem with expensive MTXs. In general, expensive MTXs can exist. It's just a question of, if you wanted to spend support a little bit, but you couldn't support a lot, but you want to support, is there something really you can get other than a stash tab? So people are, then using their hilariously ugly characters, and they could potentially want to support, but it's about, you can have $20 spare to spend however you want, but you want to get your $20 worth. You can like a chocolate bar, but you're not going to spend $20 on a chocolate bar because you need to get you need to feel you got your $20 worth.
Mhm.
And let's say I'm playing an Essence Drain character. I want to get an armor set, so that's $42. I want to get the Essence Drain Contagion graphics. That's what, 60? Or not $60, but
I thought it was
that's
280
$50.
for the entire set.
Okay,
the
so that's
package.
$28 on. So I'm at 60. I want to get a weapon art, so that's about $10. So we're at $70. I want a pet. Let's just make it another $10. That's $80. And then fuck it, I want wings. So I'm at about 110.
Got about 1,000 now.
For a character.
Yeah.
Now, there's a point of having a currency sink. The other thing comes down to options. If they're not making enough return from certain skins, they can't justify making other things. I wouldn't personally consider it lazy if they give alternate skin options. Yes, it is quote unquote reskinning, but I might like blue instead of red for whatever personal reasons. You know, I'm colorblind. Chances are I'm not going to like a color that makes sense. It's when you're doing shading, it's still work to change them to make sure all the colors fit, but you do have the model. You don't have to redo the physics. And then like sometimes there's this interesting visual effect, but the color then doesn't work with your chest piece or your helm. So you don't get to, you know, make the character look how you want. The secondary thing you might actually want to consider is when a player invests into the game, you know, they feel invested to the game, they might want to stay longer. By having a lower cost of entry getting into it, your character is going to feel more like yours because you can, you know, play dress up with them. And since you're financially invested in the game, you have more incentive to continue to invest, or B, not to stop playing. So,
but don't you think people feel that way just by buying stash tabs?
Yeah, somewhat.
And I think I think here is probably, if we use the whale term, then this is probably where the whales, they can buy all the flashy stuff and get that feeling by having these expensive stuff. And then the people who wants to get value for their money, as you were saying, PT, those are probably the people who would just buy some stash tabs then, because there you do feel you get value for your money, right? So
yeah,
I have a feeling like it's really catered to the whales.
Yeah.
Well, it is catered to the whales. I don't think there's anyone saying it isn't catered to the whales. It's very specific. The problem is that there's, as Hedgie put it, it's about, you know, representing all of the audiences, and there isn't a very cheap skins that you can buy because of your price point, or because of where you live, or because of whatever reason, or because, you know, even though you like the game and you have the money, you just can't personally be like, you know what, I have $43, there's no fucking way I'm going to spend $40 on a chest piece or on an armor set. Some people will do that as well. And so it's about not taking away from the whales. They cater to that demographic quite well. It is about the very, very large demographic of people that have smaller incomes, that have a little bit of money, and then also making sure that you're getting revenue from those sources as well.
But see, okay, that brings me to a point that I would like to talk about. You know, these players are just as important because they keep leagues alive, right? So why would it be so bad if, like, let's put it into the challenges, because challenges promote people to play for longer. They often dictate how long somebody's going to play for a league. Sometimes they want to go 12, 24, 36, or even 40. Would it be so bad to give long-term players rewards in game? Like, if you hit 40 out of 40, here's a premium stash tab bundle. You contributed to the longevity of the league. You yourself were active player, trading hundreds of, if not thousands of items so that people could finish their build. You know, would that be such a bad thing? And I don't think that would be such a big problem, because not many people hit 40 out of 40, you know? So it seems like it's a good opportunity to incentivize people to play longer, while at the same time, over time, I played this game for many, many years, I've achieved this many stash tabs for free.
You have two problems with that. Your first problem is going to be that you might cause too much of a conflict with the product that they're selling, right? And what numbers those would actually be, I can't really say anything. But the second problem, which is the bigger one, you now have a monetary value for 40 out of 40. You are now stating that if these things are completed, and you're now giving players a tool to sell these MTXs for in-game end prices. So you now have an in-game real money transaction of sorts.
Yeah, but we're talking about 180 points for 40 out of 40, and the 40 out of 40 challenges are way more than just like any amount of like
it's just
illegal
currency,
trading.
But I mean, it's still just a question of just, paying to win, having the currency, getting more and more value each time. It doesn't solve any problems, and it creates many problems.
I like the idea, though, of rewarding people for
playing longer,
participating and playing longer. Yeah, I think that's a great idea, but it has to be done very, very carefully. As
what's the totem? The totem is a unique MTX that you get, and at the same point in time, I'm a huge Warhammer 40k fan, and the Space Marines have that flag that they can have on their back that's draped down. If the totem was somehow on you, so that when you were with other players they would see, because in the hideout you don't get to show off enough. Another way could have been a portrait, right? But being able to obtain those ones that have monetary value that aren't just special for that thing is problematic.
Even if it's non-tradable.
But I mean, like, look at the model. Let's just kind of use like Hearthstone. There's a lot of things that that game does that I would like to see. First thing is, they offer disenchanting, like a fraction of the cost that you buy stuff. And I'll get that into that in just a bit. There's like a whole spiel that I would like to talk about on that. But the ability to acquire gold, right, over time, small amounts of gold for rewarding the player for playing their game, keeping them in their game and getting, long-term benefits, I guess.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's a small token for the person who can't support the game financially, but it's still a valuable asset to the community because
that's already covered in the 40 out of 40 challenges, as you stated. Like, there is MTXs with them.
But how is he ever going to get stash tabs?
He's not. That's exactly. I think there's a interesting thing about the amount of stash tabs, but that's a separate thing. You're saying that. So let's phrase it this way: why are you choosing stash tabs instead of something else? Why didn't you mention gore wings?
Because that's more of a visual thing versus something that's a functional thing that's a bit more important than wings.
That's a very, very different thing, though, and we can talk about that. We didn't.
Yeah,
really...
don't whales essentially buy stuff because of it's exclusive? If everybody has it, then aren't they?
It's a luxury. People buy something because they want it. You can't dictate why they want it.
Right. But I'm thinking for, the people that contribute to the game a functional way, like by being an active community member who trades or whatever, and keeps the league alive, allows people to trade for items that they need, getting something long-term, not immediate, right? Just over 4 years of playing, you might have, 30 stash tabs for your thousands of hours you put into the game. Like, would that be, and this is like with the restriction of getting like 40 out of 40, not just to anybody where it would destroy their model, but they've been very transparent on how many people were able to achieve 40 out of 40.
Yes, but the reason a certain amount of people achieve 40 out of 40 is because of the reward of 40 out of 40. If 40 out of 40 gave stash tabs, I would guarantee you all the fucking trade forums, all like the Reddit chat, all of trade chat would just be need this because everybody would aim for the 40/40 for the because it is functionality. You have to remember, though you have a small representation, that doesn't mean if you change the incentive, the representation would ever not, like, it would change. Like, I don't have 40 out of 40. Is it because I can't do it 40 out of 40? No, it's because I don't give a shit.
Then what if
there was? That's exactly right.
What if it wasn't the 40 out of 40 then? What if it was a certain amount of hours or something like that? Another type of reward for actually playing the game. What would you think about that?
I mean, hours would be hard to police if you're actually playing or just logged in AFK.
Yeah, but some kind of thing that would be measurable, right? In some way.
Yeah,
would it be a good idea?
Challenges would be measurable.
Yeah.
And it's not like we're giving away, $40. We're giving away 160 points, which is it's not a crazy amount for the amount of hours that you would have to put in to get 40 out of 40 challenges. Yeah. But I'm just saying, it doesn't have to be stash tab. It doesn't have to be. It could be, they've given away stash tabs on just raffles and stuff. They've done so many giveaways. And
yeah, but they've also given away a fucking computer. That's not a legitimate argument.
It's a needle in a haystack.
Does that mean everybody should get a computer?
I know. Let me finish. I'm just saying that the odds and the hopes of getting stuff in this game over time, it's not realistic for the player that can't support the game financially.
But nonetheless, why is it in a video game that you should gain monetary value as you play? That's not how entertainment works. Entertainment is the consumption of your monetary value, not the creation of your monetary value.
Well, isn't it? I don't know if we have to make it that advanced, but when it comes to it, if you create incentive for the players, despite you can do it via the gameplay, you can do it via the stuff you offer to them. Isn't that just going to be beneficial and keep them for longer in the game? Isn't it that simple?
Yeah.
Okay, but if your incentive to make people play longer is stash tabs, as I said, if you want to make it like a portrait or something, once again, you have specifically singled out stash tabs because of it has
functional value.
Yeah, a functionality. In which case, it seems to me that your intrinsic problem is not that stash tabs aren't rewarded. It's that you feel players need some kind of access to stash tabs if they could not obtain it through whatever monetary reason due to how the game has changed.
Right.
But that has nothing to do with why stash tabs should be put in the challenges. You're mixing two separate arguments, and I can fully agree.
It doesn't have to be stash tabs, as you said.
Yes, and I said if it was a portrait, but the thing is, then my argument was, but they have them. There is rewards at 36. There is rewards at 40. There is, but you're saying it's not enough. What could make it enough? Stash tabs, but that's a different argument of the functional value of stash tabs that you're muddling into two separate things.
But I'm sure you understand what we're saying.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that then?
Well, I as I said, I think you put two arguments together to try to bait one argument to be right, in which case it wasn't.
I'm not trying to be right here. I'm just curious to hear what you think about it.
Well, I that was what I thought. I just said.
I mean, in my opinion, it would be, there's such a minority of players that achieve this, maybe like a few hundred that achieve 40 out of 40, and giving them some novelty item, such as a pack of stash tabs for the amount of time, the difficulty. I definitely think the difficulty is there. I don't see that as being a problem. I mean, I kind of have this experiment that I've been doing. I'm just going to use Hearthstone again because I'm playing on an account where I've spent $350, and then on EU and NA or EU and Asia, I'm playing completely free to play, and over time I'm achieving the same thing. I'm doing dailies. I'm getting to the same power levels. I can see my decks getting stronger, my cards getting stronger. and my account getting stronger without me having to put in a second or a cent. But why can't that exist in Path of Exile?
I would honestly say it's more of a problematic or a problem with their monetization system. It's essentially their trump card by making a functionality, and this happens in many games. You take a functional thing, you monetize the functional thing, and that gives you a more guaranteed or a more stable form of income. It's not a surprise why they do it. It's not a random guess. It's very, very strategic. Now, an interesting thing could be if they got more financial support through armor sets. It could potentially relax the amount. Like, I don't know how much they make through stash tabs compared to supporter packs, or how many of the supporter packs points go into the stash tabs, etc. We don't have that information. But we know how often the stash tab sales go up. We know that a lot of people, that's all they want. If they could make more money to have higher financial security through other sources, it would increase the likeliness that stash tabs could be given away more frequently. It could do that. But you have to make it so that they could essentially allow them to lose money on that product. If you are asking a company to lose money on product A, they need to generate that loss of revenue through product B.
Yeah.
Right. And the product would be keeping people around longer and active through a league that's presumably dying, and people making the decision, should I even start this league or should I wait for the next one? You know, Chris has even stated they want their people to play their game like year round. Like they don't want people to stop playing the game. They found that behavior was bad. And, this would be one incentive to, throw people a bone, people that are on the fence of, do I actually want to go for 40 challenges, or is it not worth it to me? Oh, I'll just get 36 and stop. Because I'm seeing these huge drop-offs of player activity, and it's usually based off of, when the first person hits 100, then there's like initial hype wave, and then people hitting their challenges, and then it's just like, it's like tumbleweeds. It's almost like a ghost town sometimes, especially during NA peak hours. EU, not so much, but I'm just thinking of, how can we keep people incentivized to play for longer and not give up at just 36? How can we make people go 40? And I think it would have to be something as drastic as giving, a stash tab or a few stash tabs, something that they can earn long term and be like, hey, my account is impressive because I didn't spend a single dime and I still have the functionality of someone else. And keeping the integrity of, it's not, super pay to win, even though I think stash tabs are, pay to win, even though people will deny that. It's just functionality, convenience. It saves your time and therefore money. But on a side note, some potential MTXs that you guys would like to see, I know I would like to see, is some Flask MTX, like the Granite Flask. I'd like to see my character turn into the Thing or something, where you get stone skin, Quicksilver Flask, your character starts blurring up, so it's kind of like visually stimulating when you're like running.
The Flash.
I don't know. I think there's a lot of room for MTXs on your Flasks. What do you guys think about
that? Well, I think that's true. There's definitely room for it when it comes to Flasks. I don't know if it's the thing that people would pay the most for, because you can't show it off to other people unless you're streaming. But one thing I would love to see a map stash tab where you could sort your maps into. I hate having to sort through my maps. It's so fucking annoying. I typically just end up selling a lot of the low-level maps just to save myself from that. I would also like to see a fragment and offering to the goddess stash tab. Maybe that could be implemented into the map stash tab or something like that. I would love to see a chaos/regal orb recipe stash tab, where you simply just dump the stuff you don't think you can sell into, and then they would override each other, and then you'll have a certain amount of it in there.
I could see that being a functional, like just programming that.
It's probably
a nightmare.
Yeah, it's probably unrealistic. I would love to see it though. And then finally, if they're keeping essences in the game, I would love to see some way of adding that to a stash tab. I would love that, just for the convenience. Path of Exile is such an amazing game, but I continuously find myself being super annoyed about the inventory micromanagement and stash management. It's such a waste of time, and it's just annoying. But yeah.
It's when you get to a certain amount of chaos recipe completions or regal recipe completions where you're just like, kill me.
Yeah.
Just fucking kill me right now.
Yeah. Exactly.
The two major things that I would be interested to see would be a UI MTX and being able to change the song in your hideout, like buy a different song for your hideout.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
It's just simple.
And force people to listen to it. They couldn't turn down the volume in your hideout.
If I could put Acton's Nightmare in the hideout, I'd be so happy. That's all I want.
It's very well composed. That
you know, that's another thing that I would like to see is specialized war cries. Like, I think there's a lot of room there to have your character say something different instead of just the just the base shock wave that goes out. Like maybe an actual roar.
Audio MTXs in general, there's always a potential of that thing.
Yeah, like audio MTXs definitely. I mean, there's already kind of that with like gore, and some of the weapons make slashing noises, but I would definitely like some voice acting.
Yeah, that's a fairly untapped market or territory they could go into there. I would love that.
How do you two? Oh, sorry.
If you could make sure that other people could hear it as well. I'm
sure
there would be a lot of someone who would find a sick way to troll the fuck out of it and have the weirdest sounds, but it's definitely you want other people to hear it as well. It's similar to how you want other people to see you're wearing it.
Yeah, it was like when you had the Warcry Barbarian, you like go to a Cal level or a Bloody Run, everybody zones in, and your Barbarian's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Just like, it's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
How do you guys want to see the change to the MTX system? Like we have the MTX tab currently, which is special.
Yeah.
Well, how do you want to see them?
I was actually thinking, and this is again this could be a programming nightmare, so I don't know if that's something like that is realistic, but similar to how I've experienced it in Transmog in other games. So let's say you have an inventory. You can see your rings. You have a ring, or you have the ring slots, amulet, boots, gloves, etc. And then you have each of the microtransactions you've bought that fits that slot. So when you right-click that part of the tab, then it would show all of the microtransactions you had available for example, your boots or your weapons or something like that. So they would come up and show an easy way displayed for you. I would love that. It would make it so much easier. I don't think it makes sense to just have like a tab where you just throw in tons and tons of microtransactions, then you have to look for them. But yeah, it's kind of like what you do in World of Warcraft.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that the microtransaction tab is a disaster. In fact, I even think it hurts them when it comes to mystery boxes, because the psychology that I have is, I start buying these boxes, and I usually buy around 10 to 15 at a time. And when I see the same thing over and over again, and I know that it's permanently in this disastrous tab, it makes me not want to buy anymore.
Yeah.
I seriously think that. Like,
true.
I look at this, and every single time I get another pair of boots that I already have, I just die a little inside. I'm just like, all right, no more. Mm-hmm. I could have bought more. If I was just given the ability to delete it permanently, that would be awesome. I mean, because there's so many repeat items.
And when you have portals, double portals, like, it's so fucking annoying. I think I have 3 of the frozen portals. And
they're probably hurting themselves with the mystery boxes by not adding a simple feature to be able to, remove an MTX completely.
Or just refund it at a %.
Yeah,
because you got an MTX box, so you should be able to get a value
like
back.
5 back. Like it's cost 25, get 5 back or something. You know, at a fraction.
Disenchant thing you were talking about, maybe.
Yeah, disenchant. Yeah, that's one market or one potential thing that they could do.
Yeah.
But you know, they've already established a lot of precedent. So going back on these things, you know, people might get super upset that, you know, they bought, you know, or they miss on a couple opportunities to do something, or I don't know. But I could see it upsetting a few people. But being able to disenchant duplicates would be amazing, even if it's at a horrible fraction. It's better than nothing, you know, or it's better than just looking at it every day and, you know, waiting till the next tab shows up. You're just like, ugh.
It would make more people willing to gamble as well.
Yeah, I think so too. If I could clean up my thing, I might buy another mystery box. And if I know that I'm going to get at least some return, you know, that it might incentivize me to push the button again, you know?
Exactly.
But as it stands, I just can't. I'll die if I see another pair of boots. You know, just like.
You should roll the prophecy on MTX, the 5 for 1.
What is the one? Yeah. That'd be awesome if you could gamble your MTX, submit it for another one, like kind of like CS:GO.
Yeah. Let's have a CS:GO lottery.
I just want the permanent skin transfers. Just give me that, please.
Permanent what? Sorry.
A permanent skin transfer.
Yeah. That'd be nice.
We have the temporary ones or the single use, but I want them to last forever, because then I would desire alt art.
Yeah, sorry, I interrupted. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I would actually desire alternate art stuff if that was a thing.
Yeah, I agree. I would be more incentivized to buy more of the skins as well. Then.
So have you guys purchased any mystery boxes? I'm just curious, like ever.
Purchased mystery boxes.
Yeah,
I've done that.
And what are your overall thoughts?
I mean, it's not a good idea, but but it's a gamble, and it's the gamble that sells here, basically. Just like it's the same thing as a regular lottery, right? Or for chefs or something like that. But it's typically not a good idea to waste your money on a lottery. But you know, you have fun with the gamble, and that's the whole intention behind it. So the problem is, of course, if you make it sound like it is a good idea for the people to invest into, right?
Right. And you know, from my experience, I've probably purchased, I don't know, 60 total, like ever, from all of the mystery boxes. I've gotten more than my value, which is what they say and what they advertise. Yeah, you know, that's true. But I get lots of duplicates, and I get a lot of items that I don't want and I don't give a shit about. So it's almost worthless, you know.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a skew thing. Yeah, you will get value, but you have to be in love with everything that comes out of the box. And there are so many things that you're not going to use just because you just don't like the way it looks, or, you know. Yeah.
What about you, PC?
I haven't gotten any of the mystery lockbox. I think there was one day that you could get like a free one from logging on or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, the black one, the darkness one.
I don't like loot crates in any game. It's not a Path of Exile thing. Sure, they could do some things to clean it up, but if I want the thing, I'll buy the thing. If I want, it's just in a game for me. No, I'm not the target audience for it.
Yeah.
I think everyone, if there's the duplicate stuff got cleaned up, there's some things that do need to get adjusted and smoothed out, but overall, it's not a product for me.
We probably also have to admit that as YouTubers, there is a certain amount of entertainment value in seeing us open mystery boxes. Let's not try and deny that. So
I feel bad too, because sometimes people, they'll put their testimony. They're like, "Man, he got the wings in 10 boxes. I've spent like 1,000 and like 500 points, and I didn't get shit." And I'm just like, I wasn't trying to goat you into getting it. I was just posting my results.
Yeah, that's RNG. It's RNG. It's not worth it.
Well, it advertises itself. That's the goal of it.
Yeah.
It's also, wasn't there with the recent mystery boxes something about some of the armor sets actually not being available? So you could get a part of the armor set, but you couldn't buy the finished armor set or something like that? Or
Well, all of the ones that are currently in a box format, the special armor sets, are not available to buy. And they become available to buy
2 to 3 months later.
Yeah.
Yes, at the next league.
Yeah.
Which annoys the shit out of me.
Yeah. It's a good way to incentivize you to buy the remaining set when it releases, though.
Yeah, I guess it keeps the whales pushing that button just to get it 2 or 3 months earlier than someone else.
Oh, well, now I have the boots. I might as well just buy the fucking full set.
Well, it does make sense. If someone gets, let's say, the chest piece or one of the more expensive, they're more likely then to be like, oh, well, I'll just finish buying the set. And if the sets were currently out, but let's say I just want the wings for whatever reason. It's just like, oh, I gotta wait 3 months because fuck me, I guess, because I just want the wings.
Maybe it's just me, but I've actually never really liked the wings in the game. It's not that I think they are well designed, they look good and all that stuff, but for me, they don't have a sway.
Too cartoonish.
Yeah, a bit too cartoonish. And then
if they did capes,
capes could work as well if
you
weren't to be a superhero. But I feel that when you turn around, it just looks so static, like it's. If it had sway to it or some kind of movement reacted to your movement, it would look so much better. So because of that, I'm not using these things. I rarely buy them.
None of the animations. I was just thinking, none of the animations in the game at all move with you. Like your character is very, very rigid. Your attack animations are extremely rigid. You know, if you spend the time to do like a temp chain cyclone and actually see the animation, you cry a little bit.
Where they just stick their arms out like perpendicularly.
The T-bar and
it's like they're on the cross.
The crucifixion.
That's why you don't run temp chains maps, haven't you learned? That's a pretty good MTX discussion. But PT, did you want to talk about the upcoming PvP event?
Yeah, we can go into that very quickly. So the Saturday coming up, we are going to do another PvP event. There isn't a command right now. It's 6 p.m. GMT. There should be a timer if Lifting can get that. We're just doing low-level dueling. It's going to be 1v1, which is in Essence and Essence Hardcore, uniques only for Link Max. Speaking of microtransactions, we're going to have some mystery boxes to give away. Since Lifting won't be attending, it'll be me and Hedgie tossing some out. They won't be given for winning, they'll be given for participation.
And so following the rules.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Participation and following the rules.
Doesn't matter if you're good, you just have to participate. There's a lot of teachers who would agree with that philosophy. But yeah,
Gold star.
Yeah, exactly. Gold star for participation.
Yay! Well, our objective is we want people to try PvP, and if they hate it after they tried, fair enough. But too often, you try to PvP and there's nobody, so it's like, oh, well.
Yeah, and if we don't put these restrictions on, people try too hard and then blow everyone out. Yeah. That's why the restrictions are there.
You want to present the PT? Let's give a Hideout shout out.
Yeah, I was just going to do that. So the Hideout of the week where was this? The build of the week was Apathae this week, and if you want to submit that, just send it to me. And then the Hideout of the week was GodMessYouExile. So if you do want to submit your build of the week or the Hideout of the week, just harass me on Reddit, Twitter, Twitch, whatever. Just get a hold of me. It gets put on the list, and then we just pull from the list when we have time.
Yep.
Yeah, and just for clarification, we moved the time. Usually it's on Wednesday at 1 or 2 p.m., but we moved it because our NA participation was pretty horrible because it's during lunch hours and work hours and school hours. So we're moving it to Saturday. So we're hoping for a better North American turnout. And it's more friendly with both time zones. Sorry if you're in New Zealand or Australia and it's horrible for you, but
I'm pretty sure New Zealand and Australia are used to getting shafted.
Yeah, I know, right?
Except for league starts, right?
Girls, New Zealand, man.
All right. Oh, go ahead, PT.
No, I was just gonna say, Australia, they just have to get used to it. Like, oh, something's getting released. When is it released? Cool, 2 a.m. Fantastic.
As a prediction as well, you want to present that, PT?
So one of the things, we still don't know what the elemental beams are going to be. It looks like fire. We're not 100% sure yet. Might be hybrid. We don't have the release date on the channel skills yet. Those are 2 predictions pending. Now the essences, this was predicted right before the Essence League started. With they would be used frequently for crafting. And me and Lifting were like, yes, Hegi was against that, so he loses the point there. But the prediction today is going to be trade improvements. So in the Chinese beta, there is not an auction house, but this just public listing of everything. So you can click like rings, and you can't restrict it in game, and you'll just see rings. So do you guys expect this to appear in Path of Exile in 2.5, or do you think it's going to be a China specific thing?
Go ahead, Lifting.
I think we'll see it in 2.5. I think we'll see it in 2.5. I'm confident that there's some improvements in the motion. It's the natural thing, next natural big thing. We're gonna see it. I think so.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree. I was gonna say I don't expect it to come at 2.5 launch, but sometime during 2.5, I could see it happening.
I'm going to assume the only reason this exists is because they don't have PoE trade. So I'm going to go with no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Simple as that. All right. We have
write
our
it in the
predictions.
books.
It's written down. Close us off, Lifting.
Yes. Guys, this was it for tonight's podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Next week, we are happy to announce that Australia's equivalent of The Rock, Siggy D, will be joining us once again for a discussion about, well, lots of stuff. So if you're interested in that, give this Twitch channel here a follow, and you'll catch us next Sunday. And if you didn't catch the full podcast, you can find the VOD uploaded to Hegemony's YouTube. It will be posted there in 5 to 6 hours, something like that, maybe a little earlier. And that's it for tonight. Great podcast, guys. Hope you.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, like always.
Yeah.
So see you guys next week.